First story. I 29M found out right after honeymoon that wife 28F cheated. I've been with my wife for 4.5 years and married for 3 months now. Just found out she's been cheating on me with the son of a family friend. I remember 2 years into dating, she started being distant, and I suspected it had something to do with him. But she somehow convinced me there was nothing going on. In hindsight, I remember that she treated me like shit for 3 months during that time when she was actually sleeping with him multiple times a week. This was during a family wedding of hers in our home country. We had moved abroad and been living together in a different continent for a year by this point, which he and his family, even my parents, were also invited to, while I was at home waiting for her. To top it all off, I find out that this guy was her first love, a relationship that supposedly ended badly. She tells me after coming back from the wedding, when I confront her about her behavior, that she was confused about us when she saw him after so many years and that nothing happened between them except that they would talk, and she used the opportunity to find closure. My dumbass believed it because I naively thought she wouldn't risk it all as her family love us together, know about their past and would suspect anything suspicious, and that she wouldn't risk it all after we've made big moves like moving in together in another country to improve our lives. I know all her exes by name except him. I'm also annoyed because her family knows their history and kept him close, hiding this from me. I suppose they didn't want to set boundaries when I came into the picture. First as a boyfriend, then as their man she lives together with, then fiancé, and now husband. All of this was confessed through a rigorous trickle-truthing process over 3 months, when I found messages inviting him over while I was abroad for work. She specifically mentions me by my initial and that I'm not in town. This was less than a week after our honeymoon, and 3 days after I left from my trip. To give further background, wife and I grew up together and have known each other for close to 20 years. Our families are also close before we got married. Not to the extent of AP's family, but our parents have known each other and been good friends even before we were born. Update. A few people asked to give an update. Hope it works and you get your notifications. I kicked her a couple of hours after my original post when she returned from. That post wasn't to seek advice and didn't influence my decision. I had made up my mind days ago, probably the day I found out months back, if I'm being honest with myself, but dragged it out this long. Her and I had a 4-5 day trip already planned before I found out. And 2 days after kicking her, I am on that trip enjoying myself. My brother will be coming in a bit too. Had a good talk with my dad before the trip. Gave me tips, advice and pointers as he is also divorced from my mom. Basically wants me to work on picking up the pieces, to stay away from Alachal and women for a bit. And he also gifted me with a 1-year gym membership. He is glad this happened as early as it did before kids, finances, and housing were entangling us. At the same time, he is also sad this happened as early as it did too, because after coming back from my trip and finding out, I've literally only had half a day of a happy marriage. I'm now heading over for an afternoon trek in the jungle before bro's arrival. Enjoy your Sunday. Second story. So I should probably start early in my life. I didn't have a terrible upbringing, have 2 loving parents and always had friends, but I was bullied some for being super skinny and never felt like I was attractive. Freshman year I weighed 115 pounds at 5 feet 10. Relationships didn't really happen for me other than a couple days, and the girl would break up with me. So I never felt attractive or good enough for anyone. Fast forward to my senior year, 2-month relationship resulted in being cheated on. Next relation was a mental and physically abusive relationship that also had me being cheated on. That relation lasted about 2 years before I was finally able to leave. Took a few months to myself and while volunteering met the love of my life. She was perfect in every way, was the first person who said I was attractive, and still remember crying about that because it meant so much to me. Well, fast forward 11 years and I was married to this girl, have a great job, beautiful bug house for our future children, and life is wonderful. Or it should be. I was still depressed. I am a firefighter and have witnessed terrible things in my career, and through all that I felt miserable. I wasn't happy for no specific reason. I didn't know why I was sad, and because of that I didn't tell anyone, not even my wife. I began to spend more time by myself and didn't care for myself, want to partake in things my wife liked, like clubbing. I never liked this because I don't like crowds and I don't like the music playing. Well, New Year's Eve going into 2020, my wife decided to tell me that she doesn't know if she loves me anymore and that she has been cheating on me. I broke. I tried explaining my depression and why I have been the way I am. Tried doing couples therapy, individual therapy, working out. Lost 30 pounds in like 30 days. Tried taking her out and doing more romantic things. Well, 3 weeks after she initially told me she cheated, she told me after I cornered her after not hearing from her for almost 24 hours. Well, at work she tells me she cheated on me again. I broke completely. I left work, went home and tried to commit suicide. Only thing that saved me was I tied the rope inches too long. I took a bunch of sleeping pills and my wife called 911 because while pleading for her to come home I told her I was going to kill myself and hung up. Police came and fire department brought me to the hospital where I would spend the next week for inpatient psych and then for the next month did outpatient. Things got worse and worse between my wife and I due to her family being unwilling to help and my family blaming my wife for what happened. My wife fell in love with another man that turned around and broke her heart because he just wanted sex. My wife moved out of the house with a friend, and after numerous attempts by me to try to fix the marriage and her unwillingness to try, I decided it was enough and filed for divorce. Got divorced back in November and here I am today. I moved in with my parents to save money due to losing a lot of money on the house and my now ex-wife taking a lot of the money. I am still upset and hurt by this and everyone keeps telling me it will take time and I will make it through this. The problem is I don't want to make it through this. I am tired of this life and wish I died on that rope. Let me make this clear, I am not self-harm. I am not going to hurt myself and have not done anything to myself since that night. What I am saying though is I wish I wasn't here anymore so I wouldn't have to keep feeling this way. Has anyone ever wished they got cancer? I think about this all the time and wish I did and not tell anyone and not go through treatment. I am constantly in a sad mood and have been for most of my life and I am just tired of this. I really am. Again, not self-harm and not doing anything dangerous that would put myself or others in harm. It gets better. A little background on my story. New Year's Eve, 2019. My wife of 4.5 years, 11 years together total, tells me while I playfully wrestled with her in the family room that she doesn't know if she loved me and has been cheating on me for the last 6 months. To give you all even more background, I have been cheated on practically every relationship I have been in since high school, throughout our relationship in college, and throughout our marriage. My wife at the time liked to club, and all her friends were single, so they were constantly doing things that made me uncomfortable. Like being friendly with a group of guys getting bottle service at the club so they could get free drinks. Also, guys that have come into her life that were friends, who I didn't trust. Every single one of them at some point made a move on her. Through all this I was always made to feel like the bad guy for not trusting her. I began dealing with depression for probably the last 3 years at this point, because I always felt I wasn't providing the life she wanted. I hate large group gatherings and don't like being out late. I am a firefighter, paramedic, so 2/3 of my week is either on shift for 24 hours or it's the night before that shift. Sorry, getting very detailed, but I fell down into terrible depression and had suicidal ideations. I wasn't sleeping and wasn't eating. Lost 30 pounds in like 28 days. I was doing everything I could to save my marriage, planning date nights, getting individual and couples therapy, getting in shape. Well, this didn't change anything and she cheated on me again. I broke. I found this out through a text while working and left work. I was choking and felt such pain that I snapped and tried to kill myself. Thankfully, it didn't work and through more therapy I made it out. After dealing with narcissistic behaviors from her for about 9 more months, I finally signed the papers and got divorced. Now is the part of the story I really wanted to tell. Right around when my divorce was being finalized, I met someone on a dating app, and I'd be lying if I said it was instant connection. We both were very similar, that we weren't sure what we wanted and weren't sure if the other was the right one. We hung out and got along, but nothing special to be honest, but there was something there that I kept coming back for. This will sound lame, but my soul knew this is someone not to walk away from. We took it slow and didn't put a label on us, but eventually I couldn't help but fall for her. 2 years later I asked her to marry me. She is my wife as of 2 months ago, and today I got the greatest news I have ever gotten. I'm going to be a father. I can't explain the joy and happiness I feel. This was what I always was missing. So this post is just to show you there are good things that occur as a result of infidelity. Be true to yourself and heal. Give yourself time to love yourself again, because otherwise you can't love them. Why was I so stupid? I won't give the entire background of what happened. If you are curious, you can see my previous post about, but in 2019 my ex-wife cheated on me for 6 months and then finally told me. Tried fixing it, but she just cheated on me again. We divorced and I have moved on. I am legit happy now with my now wife and newborn daughter. Life is great and I wouldn't change anything. I unfortunately have to see my ex every 1 or 2 months, because in the divorce we have dog custody. I know it is laughable, but it's a thing. I love this dog so much, and he has been there with me during the worst part of my life. I have primary custody, so she only gets him 1 week a month or 2 weeks every 2. So I have to see her twice a month or 2. I have been trying since the beginning to get her to give me full custody, so I don't have to see her anymore. I hate seeing her. It doesn't make me miss her or anything like that, but it brings me back to the dumb shit I did when she first told me she was cheating. I should have kicked her out of the house and been done with her right away. But instead I was dumb and apologized, saying it was my fault for being a terrible husband, and bending over backwards trying to get her to love me again. I still am haunted that when she told me, and as I was crying she asked if I wanted a hug, and I did. It still to this day makes me so angry I was that way, and after I see her all this floods my mind and can't stop thinking about it. Takes a week or 2 for me to stop, and then it starts all over again when I see her. This has been going on for 4 years now. My dog is 10 now and probably have 4 or 5 years left of this crap before he passes, and I don't know if I can do it. I will, because he means that much to me and I can't give him up. I've asked for custody and even offered money, but she is also attached to him. She is seeing someone, and I hope every day this guy tells her to stop seeing me and I finally can be free of her. Not really sure the point of this post. Might just be a platform for me to speak about my feelings, but what would you do? My current wife is amazing and has no problem with a custody arrangement. None at all. Third story. I was left for the mistress almost 4 years ago. I had the seemingly perfect marriage and relationship until it just blew up overnight. On our wedding anniversary he told me he wanted a divorce because he deserved someone more special than me. My world crashed and shattered. I thought I would never be okay again. 4 years of therapy, healing, making new friends, glowing up, acing my career, dating, failed relationships and situationships brought me at an all-time high. I have the job I always wanted, more friends than ever, and most of all I met the man who surpassed my dreams. He is everything I could ever want, and I never felt anything like this. If I had the possibility to do it all again, I would, just to meet this man. So I should be on top of the world right now, but I struggle with trusting. My relationships before this beautiful man were very telling. I dated down so that they would never leave me, but they made me miserable, so I left. I got to leave them. Only in hindsight I realized I was playing this pattern. This man, I absolutely adore him and want to keep him forever. This freaks me out because it gives him the power to hurt me with goodbyes. This weekend I had a total meltdown. I met some of his friends who live far away. They were super nice, but they told me stories about his ex, who was a friend of theirs. They meant nothing with it. It was not a jab at me, it just came up naturally. It turns out she and my BF had the exact same hobbies and passions. We don't share our hobby. I participate and support his and he does mine, and it was never an issue. But the thought came and wouldn't leave me. He deserves someone more special than me. That stupid sentence, uttered by a man so far beneath me now. About a woman so basic I never even considered her a threat. These people mean nothing to me but that fear. That feeling of utter embarrassment still lives in me. The issue is also that the sex wants him back big time. She had been trying to find ways to contact him, get his attention. He is very open about it, and takes the necessary steps. She is blocked and he even left social media as she kept popping up. That feeling of having the man you love hunted by another woman is such a trigger for me. I have full-on panic attacks. I trust this man, but I trusted my ex-husband too. This feeling I can't shake, that I am always competing, always one issue away from being traded in for another model. Nothing he can say or do will have me assured he is not capable of doing this to me. It sucks that after something like this, your life becomes a healing journey that never fully ends. Some of this leaves scars that become part of you and you just have to handle it. I said this before, but it feels like someone else played with fire and you are left with the burns. Honestly, I knew being cheated on was bad, but you have to experience it to know it is way worse than you can imagine. BF handled the panic attack beautifully, by the way, and helped me through it. He knows as he is betrayed himself. He gets it. That helps. Fourth story. This is my first time ever writing one of these posts, but I'm truly at a loss. I'll try my best to include old details. I am 23, found out my ex, F22, had been cheating on me for 4 months. We were together for over 5 years and I hate to say it, but our relationship was great. We were so happy together, and we had even lived together for 2.5 years as well. There was no doubt in my mind she was going to be the one. We were both big choir nerds and then ended up in music school together as well. We had a shared life. There were maybe a couple of underlying things in the relationship that we maybe struggled with here and there, but nothing we couldn't talk through and work out. For one, we had a somewhat competitive relationship. Due to us being in the same field and being professional musicians, which is competitive enough as it is. We had some tension through the years with some things, but nothing we couldn't talk through and support each other through. I do know that she had had a very traumatic past relationship that affected her in many ways. But for one, she openly talked about this with me, but she relied heavily and solely on me as her support system. She had friends, but she wasn't close enough to anyone to really feel supported in any way. This led to her putting a lot on me, in which I really tried my best to give her everything I could to support and love her, but it just didn't feel like it was enough. As of maybe a year ago, she very slowly started changing, and she was trying to become more independent, and I supported her through that, but I definitely noticed her changing for the worse. She became incredibly distant from me, developed a huge drinking problem, started hanging out with lots of new people, and most importantly, began becoming addicted to working out at the gym. This slowly but surely also started affecting her and who she was. Fast forward to September 2023, she had gone out drinking and woke up at a friend's house. Now at this point, I had gone to bed early the night before, and I thought she'd be coming home from work. But she went out and I had no idea where she was in the morning. This drinking problem was something that I was incredibly sensitive about. But it very slowly started to feel like she was trying to dissociate with me completely and not talk about anything. I got very upset about this and told her that I was so worried and scared when I woke up, and she wasn't home and that she needed to at least communicate with me before she goes and gets incredibly drunk. She had also been sent to the ER from a bar and had almost died. She got very emotional and felt lots of guilt and shame, which I didn't want to happen, but to just try to give her a little wake-up call cause I genuinely care for her. But this led to her moving out. She moved out, but we agreed she just needed some time away and that we were still very much together. We continued to do lots of things together, but we were definitely in a rough patch. It was incredibly lonely and difficult not living with her. but I managed as best I could and also did a lot on my end to make sure I was supporting her and trying to fix anything that I needed to fix. Well, months go by, and I become suspicious of a guy she seems to be working out with a lot. I know of this guy, and he had always been friendly with me, but this was definitely raising red flags. I started asking her questions about him in a really calm and appropriate way, and she would always deny everything and say they were just friends. I trusted her and moved on. Well, here comes the beginning of February 2024, and things are actually getting better. She was planning on moving back in soon, and we had slowly but surely really worked on things. Until I receive a text from the guy she has been working out with, basically telling me that they had been in a relationship for 4 months and she had been living with him while I was suffering and waiting alone in my apartment. This guy was also upset, cause she had assured him that our relationship was over, so he felt screwed over in some way. I really don't buy that, but whatever. I went into an instant panic attack and hurried over and confronted her at work. I thought, maybe this isn't true and this guy is fucking with me. Unfortunately he was not. She confirmed all of it. I was furious, more angry than I had ever been in my life. I no longer knew who this person was, cause the girl I fell in love with would have never done this in a million years. It was so baffling to me, cause we both have been horrifically cheated on in the past and we bonded together in that way. I talked with her for a couple of hours, and she just kept crying, saying she was so sorry, and that she felt like a piece of shit and that she doesn't deserve to be alive. It's hard not to sympathize with someone you spent so long with and that you loved so much, but it's also hard to sympathize with someone who continuously lied to you about this person for months on end. Even after she had talked about her being uncomfortable with me friending an old high school friend on Facebook. Yet she was living and sleeping with this guy. It is the biggest slap to my face I've ever received. Needless to say, things ended between us and between them, or so I thought. It's been a rough couple of weeks, but I've had a lot of friends supporting me through this. Well, I made the mistake of stalking her gym account today. I couldn't tell for sure, but I'm 99% sure the shoes of the guy she was with in her story was the same guy. I'm now at a loss and am really confused as to what really happened. I definitely regret ever even checking her account. I've had urges to text her throughout these past 2.5 weeks, but I know it's not going to do me any good and I won't get anything out of it that'll make me feel better. But after what I saw, the urge has never been so high to text her and genuinely ask, like, what's going on? I sound so dumb, cause I don't need to know that anymore. And it would be better for me to just leave it alone, but the curiosity is genuinely eating me alive. I feel like I need to text her, but I know if I do I'll instantly regret it, but at the same time not texting her is driving me absolutely insane. I'm in a lose-lose situation. This is genuinely by far the most overwhelming thing I've ever experienced in my life. I hate to say it, but I don't know how much longer I can sustain this pain day in and day out. This is becoming unbearable, and although I have lots of support from people who care about me and love me, nothing is helping. And in a weird way, I feel things getting worse with time. I keep telling myself, maybe we didn't talk about it enough, maybe now that more time has passed like we can process things more. But there is absolutely nothing that I can get out of texting her. I hate that I know that and yet I can't get the absolute urge to text her out of my head. I just want some advice and or support through this situation cause this is genuinely starting to become unbearable, and I don't know how much longer I can live with this pain. I can't escape it no matter what I do. I'm so sorry this is so long, but thank you guys for reading and listening. Hey everyone, so it's been 4 months since everything went down, and that I've been separated from my cheating ex of 5 years. If you've seen my previous post, I can actually say for the most part things have been much better and going really well. I've done a really good job at keeping myself busy and also meeting someone really awesome along the way. I would say for the past 2 months it's been really manageable and actually pretty encouraging moving forward. However, I find myself struggling a bit for the first time in a while. It's a different kind of pain this time. I have a mix of annoyance and still some anger with just how everything went down. I feel it would help a lot to not have to be around my ex so much, but it is inevitable, as we see each other time to time when we have certain jobs. It's also been a bit of an annoyance socially. I can't tell my friends to stop being friends with her. She didn't do anything to them, but it's just naturally kind of made me distance myself from my friends, which I honestly hate. I wish it weren't like this, and tbh I selfishly wish they'd just solely be my friends since they are closer to me in general. Anyways, I was wondering to see anyone else's experience through coping with this as time goes on. I definitely feel time helps, but it still, even 4 months later, feels pretty harsh, and I'm still just annoyed and angry about the whole thing. I truly do feel I want to leave and almost start fresh in my career with a new city, new people, new life, etc. I truly feel it's what I want and am ready for. Yet unfortunately, due to commitments, I may be stuck here in this city for another year. I'd just love to hear how people's emotions evolve through time with this. Thank you guys for reading. Fifth story. I, 30F, just discovered my WH31M. Had been messaging his first love from high school and they had been having sexual conversations. AP was sending him nudes and he was encouraging it. Most of the conversation was deleted as he had been deleting them as they happened, but I guess forgot to delete this one before I came home from my work trip. I have no way of knowing if this is the only case or not. When I brought it up, he played clueless and started the pattern of truth trickling before I finally got it out of him. We've had many long tearful conversations over the past few days. He's revealed to me that AP was his first love that broke his heart and had cheated on him multiple times. And he was finding satisfaction in the fact that she, now married, was still being unfaithful to her current husband. He said the conversation started because AP and him were talking about our honeymoon, and somehow it turned to her wishing she was with us to have a threesome. From there he reciprocated and fell into the trap yet again of having yet another online affair. I'm beside myself. This is day number 2 for me, and I have been putting in so much effort since day number 1, end of August. I've spent so much effort with my therapist working towards our. He claims his entire behavior has changed since day number 1, and he's not had any inappropriate contact with anyone since then outside of this one instance. I don't believe him. I don't know what to do. Things have been so amazing during this recent healing journey since day 1. We have felt closer than ever before. He only attended one therapy session after day 1, and claimed it was helpful to have someone validate his feelings. And he felt he had a lot of clarity on the path he needed to take. I felt like I should have encouraged him to continue going, but didn't want to push him as I was hoping he would want to put in the effort on his own. I feel responsible for not helping hold him accountable for the self-work I was expecting from him after day 1. Now after this blow-up, I've told him I don't understand why he is having the self-destructive tendencies, and he needs to figure it out and heal from whatever traumas are causing him to act this way. He is addicted to convincing random women to send him nudes, so I'm holding out hope that this behavior is something that can be changed. He's reached out to a different therapist as he didn't like the initial one and has promised he doesn't want to be like this anymore, and thought he was doing better but slipped up. We have the perfect marriage otherwise. We have so much love for each other, respect each other, never fight or yell, only respectful discussions. Our finances are great, we have no outside stressors. Our parents' siblings are fantastic, all loving and present in our lives. We live life to the fullest and have incredible intimacy. He challenges me and supports me in the best ways and vice versa. We've been together 10 years and have loved every moment together. I love the life we've built together and love him so completely. I guess I'm looking for support, and if anyone else's spouse has been through an addiction similar and has recovered, and support that I'm not delusional for thinking we can make it through this. Sixth story. In early 2023, my wife of 13 years came to me feeling bad about feeling like she wanted attention from other men. She described it as being purely in her head and she hadn't pursued anything. I wasn't super upset, as she is normally very hard on herself. high-control religious upbringing, and it's not a completely abnormal thing to wonder if people find us attractive, etc. In the spring she came to me again, admitting the same thing but saying she had been actively seeking out the attention a man she works with, being flirtatious at work and sending messages frequently via text, Instagram and work chat. I was more upset this time, saying that well, feelings are one thing, I wouldn't want her acting on those feelings. We talked it out and she was very apologetic, but I still left the house for a couple hours to cool off mentally. This is a big deal for me, as I'm a very even-tempered person, not quick to anger or strong displays of emotion. She agreed to stop communicating with the person at work except for work matters. Fast forward to late September 2023, and we're sitting on the couch after a really fun night with some friends. We were just being lazy, scrolling on her Instagram, laughing at memes, etc., when I see a notification at the top of the screen for a message from the guy. My heart sinks, but I try to give her the benefit of the doubt that maybe he's just reaching out and she isn't reciprocating. A few days go by and I can't shake the feeling something is going on, knowing I'm snooping. I don't ever do this, even though WW has snooped through my phone constantly since we got married. I reluctantly open up Instagram on our computer knowing she had been logged in there. I go to her messages and lo and behold, there's a conversation between the two of them from the night we were with friends, and I saw the notification. The messages only go back to that evening, so I have no idea what's gone on before, but he's telling her he's out driving Uber, and she says come pick me up. He replies send me your location, and she says one day I will pay you to drive around with me, and he responds you don't have to pay me, and it ends there. This had all been going on while I was upstairs putting our 3 kids to bed for the night. That night I confront her, saying I saw the messages and I know she's still been talking to him. At first she is angry with me for looking through her messages, but I explain about seeing the notification etc., and I know she's just being defensive. I press in and demand to know what's going on, and she finally admits she had not been able to stop seeking out his attention. She frames it as an addiction that she can't control, and uses the endorphin hit she gets from it to escape feeling bad. I calmly but seriously explained how hurt and disrespected I felt, and that she needed to decide what was more important to her, getting validation and the rush pursuing someone, or what we have in our relationship and our family. She is quiet for what seems like minutes, so I finally tell her to go for a walk and think about it. She does, and maybe 30 or 40 minutes later she comes back into the kitchen and apologizes and says she wants to be better and make it work. I agree but reiterate how hurt I am and that I'm gonna need time to process. She reluctantly agrees to me sleeping in our guest room for a bit. She was worried about what the kids would think. I just told them I needed a change of surroundings for a few nights to sleep well, to give me some space. We talk a few more times over the next couple of days, and I get what is, as far as I know, full disclosure about everything. She admits it was an EA, but said it was never physical, and that often AP wouldn't give her the time of day, and that was what made her so determined. That when she could get his attention it was like she wanted and made her feel extra worthy. AP is also married. The notion that she was seeking attention from AP, because she has never been happy with my level of communication or emotional expression. The most common topic of arguments in our house, and another long post on its own probably, gets brought up, and I explain how hurtful that is, since she is fully aware that she has anger issues and generalized anxiety that are pervasive in her life that I don't enjoy. But I'm mature enough to handle that stuff without getting emotionally involved with other women. She gets mad surprise about this, but later recants and agrees I'm right. I also tell her that I no longer want her to accompany on a trip I'm about to go on for 5 days. Plan was for her to come along as I was traveling back to my hometown for a performance with a band I used to play with. She is upset but gets it, and agrees. Meanwhile she pressures me to not say anything to friends or family I see, as she's worried about what they'll think of her. I go on the trip, and take her old phone with me. No longer active but still signed in for our kids to text friends etc. has all the data back to a year prior. Again, I know it's snooping and not really immature, but I really had the sense I wasn't getting the whole scope of things. Sure enough, I look back through text between her and friends during the time after her confession in the spring and my discovery in September. And she's talking to them about how she thinks about him all time, and how when he left work for a few weeks on vacation, she cried frequently because she missed him. And her clear infatuation with this person goes back almost a year and a half. I text her and reveal I know all this and how I found out. She of course reacts with anger that I looked at her messages, even though she told me I have full access to her phone now, and that she snoops through my phone near daily. But I explain that what is so hurtful is how she painted things as this thing going on in her mind, wanting attention from other men, when in reality she had been specifically trying to get close to someone. And after even admitting that later on she continued and actively hid it from me, she eventually admits how messed up it all has been. Not without getting a subtle hint that my quiet personality is partially at fault. And also says if I need to talk to anyone about it while I am gone, that's okay. We get through the trip, saying we both want to make it work. More conversations follow over the next few weeks, and we do a couple sessions with a counselor my wife had been seeing. But it becomes pretty clear to me early on that the counselor is more interested in digging into my childhood and working on me than addressing our current problem. I bail on her, but my wife is continuing IC and also been trying to get into Love Addicts Anonymous meetings, but they're hard to find, especially ones that aren't all men. We have been doing pretty well. She still works with AP, but has gone NC apart from completely essential work stuff as far as I know. She really is trying to work on herself, addressing addictive behaviors, quit drinking, got off social media, etc., and staying in counseling. We're doing okay and have some great times, but I still have some bad days where I think about things more. My biggest problem right now is that every negative part of her personality, easily angered, often anxious, kind of controlling, that I used to be able to take in stride, forgive and move on, now feels like way more of a big deal to me. I've had a couple instances where I snapped back at her about how she was treating me, which is not like me at all. In the light of her EA, the last 13 years feel far more heavy on my heart than I thought. It's easy for me to get in a headspace where I wonder, have I ever really been happy in our marriage? If I'm totally honest, our 3 kids, 10, and 12, are what have kept me going and made me decide to keep reconciling. If we were childless, I would have ended things. But I do love her, I can't help that. And she does have some great qualities and we often have a lot of fun. However, I find myself viewing our relationship with the opposite of rose-colored glasses. So now we're 8 months post-due date. Any advice for me? I think I might be done. You can see more details of my story in my previous post, but long story short, my M41 wife, F47, admitted to an EA with a co-worker last summer. Then I caught her continuing to message AP in secret in September and gave the NC ultimatum, but gave her the choice about staying at her job or leaving. She stayed and we agreed only absolutely necessary and professional contact with AP was acceptable and have been pursuing our since. She has been in IC and one meeting for Love Addicts Anonymous. She's definitely latched onto the addiction angle as being how she looks at what happened. Fast forward to last week, she went on a quick trip with her sister to DC just for some downtime. I pick her up from the airport late Saturday night and immediately can tell something is off. I think maybe she's just worn out from travel, etc., but can't shake it. So while she was in the shower the next morning, I looked at her phone. Open phone policy was part of our agreement. A string of texts to her sister, talking about how she feels bad, that she basically spent the whole trip texting with AP, but no sign of those texts on her phone. So she's continuing contact with AP and hiding it from me. That was yesterday. I somehow managed to keep my cool for most of the day, but was breaking out in an anxious sweat and could feel my face hot the whole day. When she laid down to take a nap in the afternoon, I made an excuse that I needed to head into my work for a bit. I called my brother-in-law, husband of WW's sister, who has been my one confidant through this whole thing, and he came to meet me and talk. I ended up telling him that I'm pretty sure I'm done with trying to salvage this marriage, and that even though it would probably be possible to continue, I'd only be doing it for the stability of my kids, who are 10 and 12. And I don't like the person that I've become because of this whole situation. I don't want to be constantly wondering if I'm enough for my partner or be policing her phone. I don't want to wait while she attempts to work through her disordered attachment and limerence issues. Am I being too rash here? I know art could still be possible, but after this I just have zero desire to make it happen. Again, apart from how divorce might impact my kids who mean the world to me.